very good morning to Miss Walamati. My name is Heng. My student ID is SWE305 In this semester, my final individual project for the game design and development course that I'm taking required me to create a 2D game. In today's presentation, I will now show you the game that I had built, called the Pixelman's Adventure. So now, let's get the presentation started. Pixelman, the main character of the game, is a tiny little green robot who lives in a cool, dark tunnel underground. One day, he finally musters up his courage to venture into the outside world. Nevertheless, he had to pass through various tests to make it through the outside world. The game Pixelman Adventure is built based on 2D platformers concept, which includes action as part of the subgenre. The main objective of the game is helping our players to maneuver and control our game character, Pixelman, who possesses shooting abilities in order to survive between the levels of the game and reach the ultimate goal of the game, which is the outside world. The overall design of the game is intended to bring out the pixelated feel by giving our player an old school feeling while playing the game. Going forward, I will now discuss the player's interface within the game. This interface included the main menu, option menu, and the pause menu, and finally, the dialog system. To begin, I will first explain the main menu, which will be displayed on the screen before the game begins. The background image of the main menu showcases a deep, dark, and cold underground tunnel, which indicates that the game will take place inside of this. When our player presses the play button, he or she can either play the game. They could also click on the option menu to go to the settings or quit the game from the main menu. I also added some hover effects to indicate that our player can know which one are they selecting upon the options on the main menu. Next, the option menu. The option menu is simply meant be a way to adjust the volume and the resolution of the game, as it is part of the main settings of the game. But for now, it will be set by default. Upon completing the game, the setup of the game, the player can return to the main menu by simply pressing the back button. I will continue with the in-game pause menu and the dialog system when I walk through the gameplay. But by following that, I will now discuss the in-game playable and non-playable character, as well as the items and the resources included in the Pixelman Adventure. During this segment, I will explain all the game levels in detail. Firstly, I would like to mention that our game has been built in Unity, whereas the sprite and tile set has been downloaded from the internet. The game has also been enhanced with background music and sound effects to make it more engaging. I will now walk through the gameplay and explaining it one by one. In our gameplay walkthrough, I will now talk about the game levels which are included inside our game. The first level, which is the tutorial level, which allows our player to learn about our character's movement and the ability to kill our enemy. I have also included 3 different game levels with different difficulty, where for the last game level, our player is required to fight the final boss and defeat it. In this tutorial level, I will now talk about the in-game pause menu. The player must hit the escape key whenever he wants to access the pause menu. In the pause menu, the game freezes since the player is pausing the game, and the player can then resume the game, return to the main menu, or quit the game immediately. Once the game has been resumed, it will automatically restore the game to its unfrozen state so that our player can play it again. We have also included a dialog system inside the game which allows the player to interact with it. When our player enters a certain zone, a dialog box will appear at the bottom. Our player must press the return key to move on to the next dialog. Now, I will now showing how our player can know our character's movement and the ability to kill our enemy. First, we will now move down to here. The first dialog box will appear inside the game, which will be teaching our player how to move our character. By pressing the return key, our dialog box will prompt to the next dialog. In order to move our character, our player just need to press A and D key to move left and right. Now that our player knows how to move our character, it's time to learn how to jump. As you can see, there is a spike or obstacles over there. Our player is required to jump over it. For the tile set that has a higher height or which is not allowed by using a single jump to jump over it, our player can trigger a double jump to perform a higher jump. Now that our player knows how to jump, it's time to move on to the next one. Notice that there is a small coin at our game. When our player collected it, our scoreboard here will increases a score. Our player is required to kill more enemy or collect more coins to get a higher score. But notice that, but be aware, our score will be returned to 0 if our player dies too much time inside the game. Here will be our life count. When our player life reaches 0, it means that our player has died too many times and it will return to and our player need to restart the game over again, and all our score will be reset to 0. By collecting 1 coin, our point will increase 50 at the scoreboard. Now here, we saw a spike, we need to jump over it. Now, our player need to face with the enemy. Our character has 2 simple ability to kill our enemy. The first is the range attack, which is to shoot our enemy. By simply pressing the left click button, our player is able to shoot our enemy. If the enemy is too close to our character, our player can trigger the head stomp ability to jump and stomp over our enemy to kill it. This is also indicates that the player's melee ability to kill our enemy. But for now, I will just use the range attack to kill our enemy. Notice that our enemy can also shoot back to our player or our character. When our character takes damage, our health bar will decrease its life count, the health points. When our health point reaches 0, it will take our 1 life at here. So note that, be aware that our character needs to survive all the game level and not die too much time, or else our score will be reset to 0 and our player need to restart the game over and over again. Now that I've finished the tutorial, let's move on to the first game level, and I will now walk through and demonstrate how to play the game. Now we're reaching the first level. A dialog will be popped up to introduce the first game level. This level is fairly simple, as player doesn't need to do fancy jumping and all the tile sets are set as the easy difficulty for our player as a small introduction into the game. When our enemy starts shooting at our character, our player needs to jump to dodge the weapon that our enemy has shoot. Now we saw a spike at here. We need to jump over it to avoid getting hurt or getting instant kill by the spike, which will take our life 1 away, which is like this. And our health count, our life count will be decreased by 1. So try to avoid the spikes and jump over it. If our player dies, it will be restart back to the checkpoint which have been set inside the game. The main objective is to pass through all the level. It doesn't mean that you need to kill all the enemy, only you can pass through the game levels. To kill the enemy is just simply to add your scoreboard to get more high score. Notice that we have a small health point here. It is to restore our health points at here when our player getting damaged. But for now, our player has full health, so it will not increase the health more. To gain more points, our player needs to kill more enemies. Now that we have reached to the exit door, this exit door will be passing through our character to the next game level by simply pressing the E key. By pressing E key, our player can be transferred to the next game level. And all our health, life count and the health point will be restored back to default. But not our score. Our score will be bring to the next level until the end of the game. Now, a small dialog will be popped out which indicates that our player has passed or completed the first game level. Now, reach to the next game level. The difficulty will be increased as there are more tile sets, and the height of the tile set will be increased also. So our player need to be careful and not to get killed inside the game, or it will be restart back to the same checkpoint, or even if when our life count has reached 0, our score will reset. At here, I will now show you how to hit storm our enemy. Just simple as that, our player need to time the correct timing to position our character inside the game to storm our enemy on the head. Now that our player reached the exit door again, it will now transfer our player to the final game level by pressing the E key. Note that this is the final adventure. The difficulty of the game will be increased even harder. Just simply be aware that our player needs to be survived and not to get killed too many times. This will be our moving platform. It will direct our player moving up and down or left and right depending on the direction it moves. Our enemy will also create a knockback effect when our player knocks onto our enemy. Our player will be knocked back to the direction where it is standing. This purple enemy is our new enemy. It has the ability to fly and kill our enemy if our player or our character is inside the range. So our player need to kill it before it starts chasing us. In order to kill our flying enemy, our player is able to hit storm it or using its shooting ability to kill it, just like the normal enemy. Just simple as that. Oh, now we have reached the boss battle. A simple dialogue will be popped out to show that we have reached the boss level. Our player need to defeat our boss. The boss ability is by cloning into small amount of enemy. So when our player kill the first form of the boss, it will clone to the second form, which more enemies will be spawned. Our character or our player need to kill all of them in order to pass through the victory gate. In here, we also have our flying enemy, which our player need to trigger it so it will chase our character, and our character or our player need to kill it. Note that our boss will also shoot our enemy, so try to dodge it when it starts shooting our character. You can see that when the first form of our boss has died, it will form two small enemy, which will indicate as our small boss. Our player need to kill it also. Try to dodge it, because our boss can cause a lot of damage to our character. Compared to our normal enemy, our boss has more health, which takes more time to kill it. And now here, we have passed through the final battle, which defeated our boss, and we have reached as a small dialogue pop up at here, which indicates that we have defeated the final boss. And our player has reached to the final exit door, which will pass through to the outside world. Now that our player has reached the outside world, a small dialog will pop up, indicates that we have completed the game and achieved our victory, our main objective. So this will be my demonstration of the game. Thank you.